Time is life. You waste your time, you waste your life. You master your time, you master your life. What is time? Time is what we don't have much of when we're running for a plane. It's what we frantically try to so we can waste it. It's being born and dying. Measure time in hours, days, months, and years. The clock tells us when to get up, when to go to work, when to stop work, when to eat, when to go to bed. We tell time by cuckoos, by calendars, by candles, by celebrating in funny hats. We remember time with albums, with old ticket stubs and corsages, with antiques, with college hats and ties, with ceremonies. Some people kill time. Some call time. Some beat time. Some try to turn back time. And all too often in this frantic world we live in, time is something we're always running out of. Well, it's something we must escape from time to time. Escape and think about. In whatever quiet limbo we can find in our busy worlds, because most of all, time is life. It's irreversible and irreplaceable. To waste your time is to waste your life. To master your time is to master your life. And you know, there's no such thing as a lack of time. However we spend it, it goes on at the same pace. We each have 168 hours to live per week, no more, no less. The differences between us, whether we control our life or it controls us, whether we control our job or it controls us, those differences lie in the effective use we make of those 168 hours, week in, week out. And just as our lives have time limits, so does this film. We've got exactly 26 minutes left to browse through this book together. Why? Get you to buy the book? Certainly not. To get you to buy some simple but powerful ideas that'll help you get control of your time and your life. The author of this book and our ideas, Alan Lakein, a specialist in time management. Lakein, a Harvard MBA, is no time and motion man. He doesn't believe we should live by stopwatches. In seminars like this one at Xerox, he has taught his system of time management to nearly 20,000 executives, secretaries, salesmen, supervisors, and staff. He teaches not efficient time use, but effective time use. He's worked with people like Hugh O'Brien, Gloria Steinem, and Neil Diamond. He's worked with clients such as AT&T, IBM, Standard Oil, Bank of America, and government at all levels. And now, as we browse through his book together, Alan Lakein is going to work with you. And who should be more concerned with the time of your life than you?
Of course I'm concerned with the time in my life, but I can't do anything about it. My boss, my customers, my wife, my kids, they control my time. I don't.
I plan my day right down to the last minute. Then some guy keeps me waiting half an hour.
There always seems to be too much to do and not enough time to do it in. I'm always a day behind.
Who's got time to think about time? I've got too much to think about already.
If I could just do this, you better believe my time problem would be solved.
There's a new crisis every 10 minutes. I can't possibly control my time. I really want to be an artist. That's what I want to do with my time. But after 8 hours of this dumb job, who can paint?
I'm 52 years old. What the devil has happened to my life, huh? I spend it shaving, commuting, going to meetings, working overtime, and then I start all over again.
There's no doubt about it. Life is full of time robbers, and life is full of time conflicts. Your business gets in the way of your pleasure. Your boss has one idea of how you should spend your time, and you have another. Well, what we're going to attempt to do is pull a few good ideas out of this book that'll help you resolve these conflicts. Help you start thinking about the time of your life. And not just in minutes and hours, but by what you want out of life, what you want out of your job. Idea number 1. List your goals. Set priorities. Now, you all know that you've done this. You've done it many times. But when did you do it last? Was it last month, last year? You know, you change. Your world changes. Your goals change. So you must do this constantly to be sure you're spending your time on the things that are important to you. So tonight, or right after you see this film, start by answering these 2 questions. What are my long-term goals? What are my goals for the next 6 months? Now, we suggest that you answer these questions twice. Make a lifetime goals list. What do I really want out of life? And then make a work goal list. What do I really want out of my job? In this film, we'll be talking mostly about your time problems as they relate to your work, but the ideas that solve job time problems also solve your time problems away from work. When you make your list, let your imagination run rampant. Stay loose. Write fast. Be intuitive. Go for quantity. Don't worry about quality. Your lists are written on paper. They're not carved in marble. You're not stuck with what you write down. You decide what you do and what you don't do. Now, the next step is as simple as ABC. You've got to pick your priorities. Now, here's where the quality comes in, because A's are items of high value to you. All right, that's 50% of prospects. That's got to be an A. All right. 20% over sales quota. Another A. All right. Now, B's are items of medium value to you. Improve relations with boss. Well, that's got to be a strong B. All right. Now, C's are items of low value to you, and I don't think they're going to get you a new car, so let's call that C. Now, what you've got to do is select the very best A that you've got, and you're going to call it A1. And we'll take 20% over sales quota. That could be a good A. A1. All right. Now, the next step is to make another list because you cannot do a goal. So you pick for your A1, 20% over sales quota, or whatever your goal is. You must list the activities that will help you achieve that goal. Now, remember, whenever you make a list of either activities or goals, set priorities. Make sure that you pinpoint the really important elements of your job or your life. So there it is. Idea number 1. List your goals, set priorities. A simple but powerful idea. If you do this regularly, you've taken a giant step toward getting control of your time. You're now ready to run your job and your life instead of letting them run you. You got a plan, but a plan, like any tool, is valuable only if it's used and used every day, which means we're ready for idea number 2. Make a daily to-do list. Alan Laken writes that a daily to-do list is a common denominator for most successful people. They've set their goals. They've set their priorities. Now they make a daily to-do list to be certain they're moving steadily toward those goals, not just filling hours. Like this bank manager, you should remake or update that list daily, routinely, at the same time, every day. The best time to do this is in the morning, or just before you go home. But again, every day, and at the same time, every day. And don't make the mistake our friend here is making. Have one list instead of lots of scraps of paper. It's too confusing, and often time-consuming. Any kind of list will do. Any style, any size, printed form, your own form, just so it works for you. And it will work for you, whatever you do. But a list is not enough. Again, you must set priorities for that list by the ABC system. Repeat, unless you've set priorities, your to-do list won't really help you with your time problems. Color code the list if you like, but don't get too organized. Beware of becoming a time nut like this fellow, that overly organized person who can't make a move that isn't scheduled. He's so busy being well organized and organizing other people, he's often blind to change or new opportunities or the needs of others. And whatever you do, remember, it's not crossing out items that's important, it's making better use of your time. And before you even consider doing anything yourself, see what tasks you can delegate or talk someone else into doing. Use your to-do list when you schedule your time. That'll prevent you from filling up your time with low-priority appointments and tasks. And don't fill up every minute of the day with appointments.
I'll see you then.
Shall I send in your 3:30 appointment or your 4 o'clock?
If you do overschedule, you're bound to get behind, and then you'll go home feeling frustrated and guilty. Give up waiting time forever. View being kept waiting as a gift of time. Do something on your to-do list. Read an article you've been wanting to read. Study those sales figures. Or read a book on time management. You say you have no time to learn French? Why not listen to tapes while getting ready for work? Or take that self-improvement course while commuting. Make inroads on your to-do list every chance you get. And whatever you do, don't do what this friend is doing. Start with A's, not with C's.
Time out. Hold it.
What's your problem, friend?
Start with A's, not with C's. Sometimes that's not possible or practical.
It's always possible and generally practical.
Prove it. Look, now, it was 10 minutes to 12. I have a lunch date. Now, I can't do any of my A's in 10 minutes. So I got rid of a C.
Well, looks like you got rid of a lot of C's today.
I had lots of 10 minutes between interruptions.
Oh, you're not alone. Most people do too many C's. They're easy. They're fast. They make you feel like you're really accomplishing something. And, of course, you justify them by saying you'll get them out of the way so that you'll be free to get your A1 later. But, of course, sometimes later never comes. That's why Lakin says start with A's, not with C's.
Look, I care about my job, and I think I'm pretty motivated. But I can never find enough time to do my A's.
Don't you kid yourself. It's because you're doing all those C's. You simply don't have time for the A's. Resorting to desk neatening and turning out gobs of trivia might provide temporary satisfaction, but it's a mirage. You're not getting the jobs done that are important to you.
C's can't be all bad. I have so many of them.
80% of everything in this world are C's, but it doesn't follow that you should be spending 80% of your time on them. Just the opposite. Concentrate on the 20% that are of high value to you. 80% of sales come from 20% of your high-value customers. 80% of production is in 20% of the product line. 80% of your telephone calls come from 20% of your callers.
You know my wife?
Well, I know it's important not to get bogged down in low-value activities. Focus your time on the 20% where the real action is. Now, take a salesman. Most salesmen could benefit substantially by weeding out 20% of their customers in terms of present and potential volume.
You know my wife and my customers. But look, about a customer, you can never really tell about his potential. They're all important.
Well, of course they are, but 80% of the potential is still only 20% of the prospects. So don't keep low-value customers just because they're safe and sure and friendly and time-consuming. You need that time to take the risk you must take to succeed, whether you're a salesman, trainee, or an actor. Spend your time going after A accounts, A jobs, A roles. Go through your contact files each week. Throw away at least one low-dollar prospect or customer, and remember, maybe last year's A customer is now a C. Upgrade and downgrade constantly, and don't spend your precious time through habit. Rather than thinking, I have to do this C, get in the habit of thinking, maybe I don't have to do this C. Which brings us to idea number 4. Lakin's question. What is the best use of my time right now?
What is the best use of my time right now? Golf.
Well, If your answer, seriously, is golf, and that is your answer, it may very well be the best use of your time. But you can't really play many holes of golf in that 10 minutes you had before lunch. And Lakin's question is simply a tool. You should use it quickly and spontaneously, as many times a day as you need it. It helps you make the minute-to-minute decisions you have to make. And it's particularly useful to get you back on track after interruptions.
You say doing my C wasn't the best use of my time.
Well, you're the one who labeled it a C, not me. Now, why waste time on it if you have an A to do? You see, even 10 minutes of thinking quietly about that A has to be more useful. And ask yourself the question, what will happen if I don't do this C? If the answer is nothing, don't do it.
Yeah, but sometimes my C is my boss's A.
Well, then the answer obviously isn't nothing. Sometimes your boss's request dies a natural death, but always give it an aging period. If it doesn't die, do it. Don't pout over it. After all, the boss is the boss. Now, you can make this kind of C a little more palatable by thinking of it in a larger context. Put it in a larger frame. Take a government employee. Now, that's a good example. Some high official may make a ridiculous and time-consuming request. But if you're going to stir up a lot of flack by putting it off, do it now. Get it out of the way. Don't waste more time complaining about it, and don't do C's that don't have this crisis potential.
Everything is a crisis in our office.
Well, tasks like bills rarely go from the bottom of the C pile to crisis potential without some warning. Now, your boss or customer's follow-up request should tip you off. Lakin puts it this way. If they never ask about it, it's a C. If they write a follow-up note, it's a B. If they phone, it's an A. And if they come in person, it's a crisis. You have a C drawer?
A C drawer?
Yeah.
No.
Let's get you one. Now, let's suppose that you're starting your day. Every morning when you sort your mail, you make 3 stacks. An A stack, a B stack, and a C stack. And then you resort these Bs. Make sure that they're either A's or C's. Either worth your time or not worth your time. When you've done that, take your A's, put them in a handy spot, an A spot. When that's done, take your C's and put them in your C drawer. That one down there will do fine. Out of sight.
Forget them.
If you have a follow-up request, you'll know where they are.
Yeah, but what happens when the drawer is full?
Then you move them to another drawer, preferably more remote.
I think I could learn to like that kind of paperwork.
But whatever you do, remember the most important rule of all about paper. And our idea number 5, after sorting, handle each piece of paper only once. Here's a man who doesn't know the meaning of that rule. Handle each piece of paper only once. Oh, yes, he's a little exaggerated, but not all that much. He's on every mailing list, subscribes to every possible newspaper and trade publication. A true victim of information overload. Every morning, he stacks and restacks his paper and mail. When he goes home or on a trip, he stuffs them all into an attaché case. When he comes back, he stacks and restacks them again. He is a paper shuffler. Have you been a paper shuffler lately? If that man lived by this rule, how much more productive and calm his life would be. He'd be on top of paperwork instead of surrounded by it. We suggest you live by that rule, too. Don't pick up a piece of paper unless you intend to do something with it. Don't put it down until you've done something with it. If you really can't take care of it immediately, at least do something to move it ahead. A complaint doesn't go away simply because you put it aside. Dictate a reply immediately. Try to say it in 2 paragraphs. Don't be a perfectionist. Dictate key ideas only. Let your secretary construct the letter. Write answers on incoming mail when possible. It's a great time saver. Use inter-office memos with the bottom portion for reply. If you have a secretary, have a talk with her on how to cut down paperwork. If you don't have a secretary, have a talk with yourself. Our bet is you can throw out 20% of your paperwork and never miss it. Throw out junk mail. If you insist on reading it, accumulate a whole week's worth before you review it. Have a separate pile for background reading. Read it only when time permits. Read smarter, not faster. Read books like you read newspapers. Only read the chapter if the headline really interests you. Have mail routed directly to subordinates or others when appropriate. Get off mailing lists. Cancel subscriptions that are useless. Quit organizations that send you too much mail. Pick up the telephone and resolve a question right away. Decide anything you can right away.
Let's do it.
Which leads us to a very crucial Lacan rule. Do it now. You know, procrastination could be the subject of an entire book or film. It's a universal time problem for all of us. For now, though, let's just say this about our idea number 6. Do it now. Consider the real price of delay when you put something off. Now, the problem often escalates. It gives you unnecessary moments of anguish. You feel guilty. Your anxiety increases every time you think about it. You don't sleep well. Now, is procrastination really worth the pain? What? You say you work well under pressure. All right. What if you leave just 2 days to do a big project and then get the flu? That's a lousy excuse if you've had 6 months to do the job. And working overtime in a crash program leads to physical and mental fatigue. Hours may be lost solving a problem that a clear mind could solve in seconds. You waste precious time hating yourself, swearing you'll never put off again. It just makes more sense to give yourself a little more lead time before the deadline. You'll be more relaxed and in better control of your time and your life.
I'm back. Now, do it now, you say.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what if you ask yourself Lacan's question, what is the best possible use of my time right now? And you answer, do an A1. Then you have to ask yourself another question. Do I have 40 to spare today?
You're talking about what Lacan calls an overwhelming A. You know, the reason most people put off things that are really important to them is that they seem overwhelming at the time. They just haven't got enough to tackle that big job. They're too tired.
Yeah, well, you're interrupted all the time.
That's right. Look, if that's the case, try the Swiss cheese technique. Take your overwhelming task and analyze it. And then poke some holes in it. Now, that's what Lacan calls instant tasks, something that might require just 5 minutes of your time, but that pokes a hole in your overwhelming task.
And that's where the Swiss cheese comes in.
That's right. Now, you could have used that 10 minutes before lunch to work on your A1 instead of doing that C. For instance, suppose you're tackling a budget problem. Now, an instant task could be getting a copy of last year's budget or deciding who you need to contact or maybe obtaining the files you'll need, arranging a meeting to discuss the budget. Just do something, anything, that moves along that A1.
Take lots of little bites.
Exactly. And, you know, you're going to find out that the job really wasn't quite as difficult and overwhelming as you thought at first. And you'll suddenly have a little momentum. Well, then, block out some big chunk of that and finish it. But start now.
Yeah, but what if the boss or a customer wants to see me in my big chunk or telephones?
Well, sometimes, of course, you have no choice, but you'll know when that is. But don't always do other people's A's at the expense of your own. Learn to say no, logically. Look for compromises. Encourage, for example, a demanding customer to go directly to the service department by telling him his request will be handled speedily there. And if you're interrupted, don't let it throw you. When that phone rings, instead of getting angry, someone's taking your A1, say, that's my job calling. Now, with that kind of attitude, you'll be able to pick up your train of thought right where you left off.
Oh, so long.
Time for that lunch date?
No, the meter's running on my overwhelming A.
Now, do we expect our friend or you to remember everything we've talked about? Certainly not. We'll settle for a lot less. We want you to be more aware of your time and how you use it. Time is your most valuable resource. Treat it that way. And we want you to remember these 6 simple but powerful ideas. List goals, set priorities. That's the big one. List your goals and set your priorities. Make a daily to-do list. Start with A's, not with C's. And ask Lacan's question often, what is the best use of my time right now? Handle each piece of paper only once. And finally, do it now. They can all be summed up with work smarter, not harder. What's in it for you if you really follow these suggestions? Well, you'll find yourself working less hard and doing more, ultimately earning more, enjoying yourself more, being less uptight. You'll be able to cope with the time robbers of your life. You'll find you really do have time for your family, for yourself, for your friends. Time to relax. Time to do all those things you've always wanted to do. Time to live. So we're right back where we started. What is time? Time is life. Live your life. Don't just spend it. Now, this is no open sesame. But it does work if you work at it. The alternatives, and I'm sorry, you no longer have time for those alternatives. If you waste an hour, a day, a year, you're wasting your life. If you're spending your time complaining about what might have been, what should have been, you're wasting your life. If you're spending your time blaming others, goofing off, putting it off, saying it's too late for you, you're wasting your life, and don't do it. Live. Remember, you have 168 hours to live in a week, 24 hours a day, no matter how old you are. Live each one of those hours. Get control of your time and your life. What's the best use of your time right now?